You're such a fool. How can anyone be so useless? I'd lost count of how many times my husband had thrown cruel words like these at me. I had once vowed to love him forever, convinced we'd find happiness together. That was my hope when we married. But now, whatever love I felt seemed to have disappeared. Day by day, Jack's controlling attitude got worse, even forcing me to take care of his mother. I felt completely drained, both physically and emotionally, and was on the verge of breaking down. Just when I felt I couldn't go on, someone reached out to me with kindness. The very person I was caring for, my mother-in-law. My name is Mary Wagner. I'm 30 years old. After graduating college, I worked for a publishing company, but I quit to become a full-time housewife after marrying Jack. My friends envy me, saying, "You're so lucky to stay home. Your husband must earn well." But in truth, my married life is closer to a nightmare. The root of this misery is Jack. We met at work and got married after dating for 2 years. He was 3 years older and a bit distant, so we weren't a particularly affectionate couple. Still, I loved his self-confidence and maturity, and I thought we'd live a peaceful, happy life together. That's what I expected, anyway. But once we were married, Jack's true nature came out. I quickly realized he was a traditionalist who believed in strict roles for men and women. He wanted me to be a housewife, and so from the day after our wedding, I dedicated myself to cooking, cleaning, and everything else at home. That evening, like every other, I prepared dinner, waiting for Jack to come home. Jack came home a little after 7 p.m. He glanced at the dinner I prepared, gratin, salad, and soup, and suddenly raised his voice. "What's this?" he snapped. "If you're going to make dinner for your tired husband, it should be a full-course meal." I'm sorry, I stammered, confused. "Last time, you said it was delicious." "That's no excuse. Why can't you even manage something so simple? You're completely useless as a woman." I felt hurt and tried to protest gently. "You don't have to say it like that." Jack glared at me, then suddenly grabbed the plate of salad and threw it on the floor. Shocked, I gasped as the food scattered. "This is what happens when you can't do the basics right," he sneered. "Why don't you use your brain to figure out how to be a decent wife?" It was the first time in my life that someone had spoken to me with such cruelty. I'd had arguments before with friends or family, but never anything this harsh. And hearing these words from my husband, the man I loved, hurt deeply. It had only been a few days since we got married, and I never expected he'd react like this just because he didn't like dinner. But I was a housewife now, completely dependent on him financially. I couldn't afford to stand up to him, especially not as a newlywed. From that day on, I felt like I was walking on eggshells around him, trying to avoid anything that might set him off. Every part of my daily routine was filled with pressure. Laundry had to be ironed perfectly, meals had to be seasoned just right, and not a single hair could be left on the floor. Jack's demands only kept growing, and my nerves were wearing thin. One morning, as he was leaving for work, he noticed a small crease in his shirt sleeve. "Are you blind?" he snapped. "Look at this crease." "I'm so sorry, I'll iron it right away," I said, flustered. "You won't have time for that now," he grumbled. "It's ridiculous how slow you are. Do you need to ruin my morning to be satisfied, you useless woman?" Whenever I made a mistake, I had to bow my head in apology, as he ordered. For small mistakes, a simple apology was enough. But for bigger ones, I was expected to kneel down. Sometimes he would even show me a filled-out divorce form, as if threatening to end everything right there. As time passed, I began to feel worthless. But I didn't think I could divorce him. I was jobless, and I couldn't bear to tell my parents, who had been so happy about our marriage, that I'd failed, and so soon. One evening, as I was setting out dinner, Jack walked in, loosening his tie, and surprised me by starting a conversation. "Mary, we're moving to my parents' house this weekend." "What? To your mom's place?" I asked, shocked. "Yes," he replied firmly. "Have everything packed by then." This was confusing. Jack had always been against moving back in with his parents. But now, everything was about to change. When I asked Jack why we were suddenly moving, he looked at me with a cold stare that made me fall silent. After a moment, he spoke. "My mom had a fall. It's hard for her to live on her own now." "Oh no, then we should go help her right away," I replied, worried. "She's been in the hospital for a week. We're moving in with her when she's discharged this weekend." "I see. But you've always been against living with your parents. Why now?" He gave a smirk. "Can't you figure it out? My mom's family has money. If we go there and I show I'm caring, we could end up with a nice inheritance. What? That's not right. Isn't it disrespectful? Shut up, he snapped. I support you, so just listen to me quietly. Startled by his loud voice, I apologized. Then he looked at me with a smug expression. You'll be taking care of my mom from now on, like a maid in her house. This is your job now. A maid? I asked, feeling hurt. Don't argue. Who do you think pays for your lifestyle? Thanks to me, you'd have a place to stay and food to eat. And remember, the more seriously you take care of my mom, the more money we might get in the end. So don't mess this up. I could only reply quietly, yes. Satisfied, Jack started eating his dinner. He was forcing me to care for his mother just for her inheritance. I felt like nothing more than a housemaid to him. It was painful to hear it so plainly, but I didn't have the courage to speak up. The next day, as he ordered, I started packing our things. A week later, we moved into my mother-in-law's house right when she was discharged from a hospital. Jack didn't even come to the hospital to bring her home, saying he was too busy with work. So I was the one who took her back. As I helped my mother-in-law, she spoke up, sounding apologetic. Mary, I'm really sorry you're going through all this because of me. Oh, don't worry about it, I replied. I'm a housewife, and if I can help you while staying at home, then I'm happy to do it. Thank you. But isn't this a bit sudden for you? Well, I guess packing was a bit rushed. I bet. Even I was surprised that Jack decided to move in with us. Did he say anything to you about it? No, he didn't mention anything. It made sense that my mother-in-law found it odd. Jack has always spoken poorly of her, saying she was a nuisance and that he didn't want to see her. Yet the moment she was hospitalized, he insisted we move in with her for her inheritance, though I couldn't tell her that. So I tried to stay calm and not reveal the truth. From that day on, my life as a caregiver began. I took on the responsibility of helping my mother-in-law and handling the household chores in their big family home. Jack's behavior didn't change even after moving back in with his parents. He was just as controlling and would insult me whenever his mother wasn't around. I couldn't afford to fall behind on any of the housework or caregiving, so my days were filled from morning to night, nonstop. This routine continued for about a month until one day, while I was gently washing my mother-in-law, she expressed concern. Mary, have you lost more weight? Oh no, don't worry, mother, I replied, trying to sound cheerful. Are you sure? I thought you looked a bit worn out even when you moved in. You look more tired than when you first got married. She was right. In the year and a half since I married Jack, I had lost about 15 pounds. It wasn't that I skipped meals, but my appetite had dropped, and I barely had time to sit down and eat. My mother-in-law noticed these changes in me, something Jack hadn't even seemed to realize. Just knowing she cared made me feel a little less lonely. I forced myself to smile, not wanting to worry her further. Don't worry about me, mother. Just being able to chat with you like this every day makes me happy, I said with a smile. Mary, my mother-in-law replied, touched. Let's not talk about sad things. Should I wipe your other hand now, mother? Oh yes, please. Just then, my phone rang. Oh, it looks like it's Jack. As soon as she said his name, I felt myself tense up. Jack had ordered me to answer his calls right away. Since I was holding a wet towel, I couldn't pick up immediately, but I knew he'd get furious if I didn't answer fast enough. Using my elbow, I managed to hit the answer button and put the call on speaker. Hello, I said. Instantly, Jack's angry voice blared from the other end. Why didn't you answer right away? Sorry, I was a bit busy. A maid should answer the first ring. Don't talk back. You're so annoying. Why are you so useless? I'm sorry, I replied quietly. You're taking good care of the old lady, right? Our inheritance depends on it, so don't mess up. Being yelled at like this in front of my mother-in-law filled me with shame. Jack kept calling me names and then hung up. The room fell into an awkward silence. Then my mother-in-law broke the silence. Mary, that was Jack, wasn't it? Does he always talk to you like that? I guess, but it's my fault. I really am useless. What are you saying? You're such a kind and good person. Mom, I can't let this go, Mary. It's time to stand up to him. My mother-in-law then came up with a plan. Following her instructions, I took all of Jack's belongings and tossed them into the yard. Then I locked the front door. Together, we waited for him to come home. A few hours later, we heard rattling at the entrance. Jack had arrived, but of course, the locked door wouldn't open. He kept ringing the intercom, but I ignored it, just like my mother-in-law had told me to. Finally, my phone rang. It was Jack again. I put it on speaker and answered. "Hello?" He started yelling right away. "Open the door right now." "I can't do that." "What? What are you saying?" "This is by your mother's order." My mother-in-law spoke up in a cold tone. "The one messing around is you, Jack. You're a fool." "Mom, I always knew you could be heartless, but I never thought you'd treat your wife like this." "No, that's not. I knew something was up when you suddenly moved in, using your wife to get my inheritance. How can you live like that?" "It's not true, Mom." "What's not true?" "I have no intention of leaving you any inheritance. This is my house, and you are never welcome back." Panicked, Jack began pounding on the door, begging us to let him in. Hearing my mother-in-law stand up for me, I felt stronger. I knew I wasn't alone. With determination, I spoke firmly to Jack over the phone. "I want a divorce. I can't stay with you anymore," I said firmly. "What? What are you saying?" Jack stammered. "Enough. I'm done being married to someone like you. I refuse to waste any more of my life on this. I'm choosing my own happiness from now on." "Don't joke around. You can't live without me," he sneered. "There's nothing I can't handle. No matter how hard it gets, it's better than being with you. I'll face anything, but I refuse to keep trash like you in my life." Without another word, I hung up and blocked his number. From outside, I could hear his yelling turn to desperate cries. But soon my mother-in-law called the police, reporting his disruptive behavior. The officers came and took him away. I used the divorce papers he'd given me before and filed for divorce, adding a lawsuit for mental and physical distress with my mother-in-law as a witness. Thanks to her support, the process went smoothly. After paying me a large sum in compensation, Jack's savings were drained. His company found out about his police record and demoted him, ending his career advancement. My mother-in-law also decided not to leave any inheritance to him, instead setting up a yearly fund for me. Since then, I've continued caring for her. It's something I feel grateful to do. "Mary, I'm so sorry for all the trouble I've caused you. Even after divorcing Jack, you're still here for me," she said, her voice full of regret. "Please, don't apologize, Mom. I should be thanking you." "I'm so lucky to have a daughter like you," she replied warmly. "Same here. Let's keep supporting each other, okay?" Now my days with my mother-in-law are filled with more smiles than I ever expected. I'll continue to do my best for her, grateful for this new chapter in both our lives.